Test. We're good to go. Sorry for that brief hiatus.
All right, I'd like to call to order the June 10th, 2021 Plan Commission meeting. Could I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Kays.
Here.
Brink.
Here.
Jargus Johnson. Here. Oletsky.
Present.
Ford.
Here.
And Dolly, Spire, Hanson, and Culhane are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Third item on the agenda is invitation for public comment participant submittal. I do believe we already have one item that will be discussed later, but if there's anyone else that's either here or online, please let us know that you have an item that you would wish to discuss that is not on our agenda today, and there will be time at the end of the meeting to discuss that. Moving on to item 4 is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Fifth item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the May 20th, 2021 meeting. Can I get a motion and a second for approval?
I'll make a motion. I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Sixth item on the agenda is our regular agenda. 6A is the Harmony Hill addition, annexation, and zoning. Brandy, would you take over and explain it for us, please?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I was just curious, before we get into too far, will we do a joint public hearing on both action items A and B? Can we do that?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Thanks. Though. So thank you, Jeff. So this is for Harmony Hill, and we've seen this recently when we approved the concept plan for this area. So now we're following through in conformance with that concept plan. And so the owners, the Benedictine Sisters of Watertown and the Mother of God Monastery, have submitted this application for annexation and zoning. And so they are proposing that to bring this 18.3 acre piece in as A1, which is agricultural district. And then right on the heels of this, we'll have a subsequent action that will actually rezone it and make it conforming with the concept plan, because portions of this will be rezoned. But to make it clean, and then also in conformance with what is existing there, the agricultural zone is currently, the property is currently zoned that. So if the rezone fell through, at least this piece would be in conformance and we wouldn't have a spot zone type of situation.
The existing structure there would still conform with the ag zone, that's the old radio station?
Yeah.
That would be an allowable use in the ag zone?
Yep. Utilities.
It's the multicultural center out there?
Okay.
That's an allowable use in the ag zone?
So it's not being used that way, right?
It's not being used at all.
At all.
So it's just a
So
vacant
it's
building?
yeah, it's just a structure there.
Okay.
So where I was going, because there is some utility substations, like the tower.
Right.
So that's where I was going with that. That railroads and utility substations are permitted in the ag zone, but they
As a permitted use or a conditional use?
permitted. So and then also, when you annex and zone, if you're going to bring it in as A1, it has to be 35 acres. This piece is 18.3 acres, but obviously they own the surrounding property, so it will add into that. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you. So we do have to have two separate public hearings for this. So the first one is the annexation. I will open up the public hearing for the annexation. So if there is anyone here to speak in favor or against the annexation, please feel free to step up to the mic and do so. Brandy, I have one question. So just to clarify, so we're the plan here is to annex it and zone it ag, and then at a future date, when they're developing it, we'll rezone it accordingly with the R1, R3, and the PUD kind of that we've talked about in the concept plan. And
Next action, not a future date. So it's the next action
Oh.
item. So we'll take
let her be.
two
Okay,
actions
yep,
here
thank
because
you.
it'll be
Yep.
annexation and zoning, and then we'll come back with a rezone.
Okay, all right, thank you. Now I understand that now. So thank you.
Yep.
Hearing no comments on the hearing no comments from the public for the public hearing on the annexation, I will close the public hearing on the annexation and ask for a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the annexation. Could I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Chair, I think we can handle this on a voice vote.
Okay, sounds good. Let's go. All in favor of the annexation, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Annexation passes.
Diana, did we get an aye?
Yes, it's very staticky, so I'm having a hard time keeping up. But yes, you got an eye from me. Thank
Okay.
you for checking.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So then I have to open the public hearing again for the zoning, correct? Yep, okay, so I will open the
Oh, I see where you're going with that
Yeah,
now.
I'll open the public hearing for the zoning. So if there's anyone that's here to speak in favor or against this property being zoned A1 agricultural, please step up and state your name for the record.
Mr. Chairman, just to expand on your question earlier, staff did talk through this as far as the zoning it as A1 right now, and then we're coming up with the subsequent action to rezone it immediately after. We felt it was easier to do it that way just because of the boundaries of the rezone expand out into the other already annexed, already zoned ag area. So to take care of that rezone and the subsequent action made a lot more sense, just so, and you'll see that when we get to the next item, but that's why we didn't zone a portion of this lot now, the R, the C, and the PUD. So just for clarity for your information there.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And then seeing that it is the next action, that kind of clicked in my mind. It just took me a second. So thank you for that.
And I want to apologize because that was a valid point that Commissioner Kays had, that we didn't really need two public hearings because annexations don't need public hearings. Zoning, the ordinance only does. So we're covered.
Well, all right. Well, we asked we're safe, so we've got the public hearing open right now. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak in favor or against the A1 zoning? Hearing none, I will close that public hearing and I'll ask for a vote. So all in favor, say aye.
You need a
Aye.
motion.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I'm sorry. I need a motion and a second. Got ahead of myself. Can I get a motion and a second for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for approval. Is there any further discussion from the board? All right, hearing none, we'll take a vote. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B on the regular agenda is commission consideration of resolution 2021-27. That's an amendment of the zoning designation for Harmony Hill. So Brandy, could you please kind of explain what all the rezones are taking place in this action?
Yes, you bet. Thank you, Brink. So this is the rezone, the subsequent action of some of the area that we just annexed and zoned or recommended for annexation and zoning. So that is in, that area is outlined here. So as you can see, and as Heath alluded to, if we would have brought this portion in as C3, it's a I don't know, just not a good practice, I guess, it wouldn't necessarily meet the requirements. And if this did not have, well, the area would, but if this did not go forward, then you would have a spot zone of C3. And so it's just cleaner to keep them separate actions. So what they're proposing to rezone is in conformance with their approved concept plan, which that we approved on April 22nd. And they are proposing to bring in this is along that Challenger Way, and I'll bring up another map too, but this is helpful at this point. So they have C3, which is highway commercial, and then R3, which is multifamily residential, and then their PUD, which is the planned unit development. And with the PUD, they do submit the PUD plan that is in your agenda packets and is a required attachment with their petition. And so they have to show certain things of what is unique about what they're proposing, and basically it was to incorporate all of their uses and into what would not have worked in a traditional or in a conventional zoning district. And I'll have the applicant elaborate on their proposal for the PUD plan. Other than that, the park dedication, which is in this area here, Challenger Park, that is 26 acres, and that did go to the park board. And so we're taking it a phase-by-phase basis with this development, and hopefully the policy going forward with the park board to look at what is being phased in currently. So they did approve that Challenger Park will be privately owned and maintained, but open to the public. And so that way they can manage. They're doing some unique things, and it should turn out really nice. And so the fact that the public is still able to benefit from that is great. So with that, will open it up for questions.
So, just for point of clarification, so everything north of the proposed rezonings that stays in the ag zone, it doesn't have to be 35 acres anymore, only how does that work? You know, you have a 35 acre minimum right requirement, and I think you probably have 35 acres, but as things develop and things get shrinks, it doesn't really matter unless you've got other uses going on that would be non-conforming. Is that right?
Well, we actually, when they would get to that point where they would only have 35 acres left, we would want them to rezone that portion too with that last action.
Yeah, I was just
'Cause
curious how that worked.
That's what we have going on with River Ridge too. They brought it all in as ag, and then every time that they're ready for their next phase, then we rezone. And so then once we get to the 35 acres, then they would just do R1 or whatnot, so.
Thank you for that introduction, Brandy. I will open the public hearing for this rezone. So if there's anyone here that wishes to step forward and state their name for the record and speak in favor of or against this item, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, that's good. Because then if there's questions. Yep.
Good evening. Nice to be back. I am Mark Volke with,
Oh, yeah, push that button. Where it says push.
thank you. I'm Mark Volke with Hoffman Planning and Design. It's good to be back in Watertown, and for good reason. We appreciate the approval of annexation, and I just wanted to give you a quick update and offer to answer any questions about the project at this point. The PUD, as was stated in the submittal, will be a senior living campus, the first phase of the PUD. I think I won't get into all the details, but I will let you know that we are proceeding with design. We've had several meetings today. We met with staff today to go over the ongoing schedule. The plan is to start construction on the public streets in July, which is only 6 weeks away. I mean, it'll be 6 weeks. July is only 3 weeks away. But the second half of July, we hope to start grading the streets. We hope to start on utility work, underground work in the public streets in August, September, and complete that. And what we'll do is we won't finish the streets and turn them over to the city until some of the major construction is done, and we can put the final asphalt coats on before you would want to accept the streets. And then the architectural design is progressing, and we still are hopeful that we will get that submitted to the city for footings and foundation approval, and start that in September, October, and then complete the building, the initial phase of the buildings next year, and along with the public streets. We have a meeting set up with staff, Brandy and Stacy and other staff members, where we're going to bring the architects in and start going through the details of the building design. That'll be June 22nd. I think that's all I can update you on, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the update. And I imagine the staff's design review team has looked at this development as well. Is that correct? Does any concerns come from that, Brandy, or has there been any issues there?
No, what they're proposing for their PUD plan is acceptable, so,
Okay. That's good to hear.
for staff anyway.
Yeah.
Now it's up to you guys.
Yeah. Is there any questions that the board has for the applicant as he's still sitting there?
Just a point of clarification, Brandy. So when we adopt the PUD zoning, we're adopting the PUD plan.
Yes, yep.
Any subsequent changes that are contrary to the PUD plan would result in us having to come back and approve a new amendment to the plan.
Right, and what they're showing too, like as far as the footprint goes, they don't actually have to show that. They just provided additional information, just to help guide the conversation.
Right. It's more or less, I guess, if something was to completely blow up unexpectedly in the next 3 years and you had a change of mission or scope, that would be different. Then you would come back to us.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that's either here or online that wishes to speak in favor of or against this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second on the rezoning.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to item 6C, that's commission consideration of resolution 2021-29, the plat of Valley View 3rd Edition. Brandy, would you please take over?
Yes, thank you, Brink. And I just want to clarify, Diana, again, I just want to make sure you're with us. You got an eye on that?
Yes,
Okay.
Brandy. I'll try to be louder. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, I always assume if I don't hear you on the no, you must have said yes. So that's all I assumed you said yes.
True. Just checking on you, Diana.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so thank you, Brink. So this is the plat of Valley View 3rd Edition. Last year, we saw the Valley View Second Edition, which was this portion here. Well, actually just here. So this is a larger portion. Let me pull up the actual plat. The owner is J&J Land Sales, Jamie Andrews, and they are the owner and developer. They will be bringing in, where's my, okay. So here is the plat. We'll go to this version here. So you can see that this third edition does include a large portion of what was preliminary planned initially. And so then we've seen the first edition, second edition, third, and then this is in conformance with the preliminary plan, and it is still effective because it was able to be extended. They have a preliminary plan because they developed before we had amended the ordinance and our procedure, and so then now typically we would be looking at an approved concept plan. They just had, they were required to do additional information at the front end where we made that change now. So that's why I am using the term preliminary plan. But that is effective, and so you can see that they will be installing Grant Drive, 16th Avenue here to the southwest, 19th Avenue, 5th Street, 4th Street, and 3rd Street, and then also 18th. Right now, with the second edition, they have temporary turnarounds. That's what was in the development agreement. And then, but obviously now it will connect all the way up to 19th. And so it'll touch River Ridge Estates now.
And so Outlot X and Block B, that's still going to be, I can't remember what that was laid out in the preliminary plan for.
It will be platted lots R1, but, and maybe R2, because we brought these 6 actually, down on 16th. We brought those in as R2. So we could see something similar like that. But they will be, so 16th will loop here. And then, so they had to plat that right now, but they're just not installing the infrastructure, so then they can't actually plat the right-of-way.
Right.
Otherwise, it has to be done in 2 years. But they did need this pond, so that's why the plat has to be contiguous of each other, so.
And this property is it already annexed and zoned, correct?
Yep, and so that action actually was, do I have that date in here? May 28th of 2021. So we did the annexation and zoning, and so the zoning districts, again, they conforming to the prelim plan. We do have the transition zoning where this block 17 is R3, and then block 16 is R2. And then these 6 lots down in block 9 are also R2. Otherwise, the rest of it is R1, single family residential.
So yeah, everything's annexed and zoned. We're just drawing lines for lots and.
Yep, and then we have the development agreement with the required infrastructure improvements attached as well. And the cost recovery, the unique thing about this development is that it does abut 2nd Street, which was already constructed. The city had constructed it. And then we have a cost recovery on the books that gets collected prior to platting. So for their half of 2nd Street. And it's only for the local street section because 2nd is a collector. The city paid for upsizing. And then we went with concrete instead of asphalt for various reasons. But then the developer actually they pay half of the street section for the local street if it were an asphalt. So, because that would be, we went above and beyond our standards necessary.
So just
se.
a quick question. I look at this development every day out my front window. And so just making sure on the previous development and the plats and construction of everything's moving according to plan. We haven't had any major issues, problems that we need to be rectifying before we take on another chunk of development. Everything's been going smoothly, Mr. Engineer?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Case. That's a fair question. We have been working closely with the developer on phase one. They are close to getting a certificate of completion for that phase. They had a punch list of items that were identified last fall, and they've proceeded to work through those items with some drainage components, some grading, some sidewalk ramps, things of that nature. And I can't tell you exactly where that's at today, but I know they're getting very close to having a certificate of completion brought forward to the city council to start the 1-year warranty on phase one.
Yeah, I'm all for the project, but every once in a while, just before we start grabbing on more of the elephant, we want to make sure that we've digested what we wanted to do.
Definitely. Yeah, and their phase two, you know, that was a smaller portion, and then so I think it's all just gonna be installed together.
All right, thank you. With a plat, there isn't a public hearing, so I will ask for a motion and a second for further discussion.
So moved.
I have a motion and approval for further discussion. Is there, does anyone else have any other comments or concerns, or? Hearing none, we'll ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Moving on the agenda is item 7, open public comment. And Brandy, I believe we have someone that submitted something to you, so.
Yes, and I told her I was gonna give her a 10-minute heads up, and so I just texted her. So she should be calling in. She was going to be kind of watching, I think.
Is there any new business while we're waiting?
What's that?
Yeah,
This is in regards to the Plains Apartments.
well, while we wait for her to call in, I think we could jump ahead to items 8 and 9. Is there any new business or old business that we need to address? All right. Well, let's go back to item 7. It looks like we have someone joined in the lobby.
Yep. Okay. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Okay.
So this is Katie. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Katie. Go ahead and could you just state your last name for the record, and then you have the floor to talk.
Sure. I'm Katie McLaughlin, and I live over in the Jefferson area. And we just had some questions about, I forgot what we called it, but the apartments that are heading over, can we mute that? Okay, thank you. Heading over in this neighborhood. So the first question that we were just wondering, could you give us an explanation of the changes to the zoning over here?
Yes. So, and I had a conversation with Katie today where she asked these questions and I did explain them to her, but then there's a larger group. She was the spokesperson. So, the property for the Plains apartment, currently at North Grove Properties, to the northwest of Highway 81 and then 16th Avenue Northeast. We just recently rezoned that from the split zoning that it was. So there was already R3 multifamily residential existing there. And then because there will be apartments on the entirety of the property and you can't have split zoning, we cleaned it up and then rezoned it to the entire thing to be R3.
Brandy, what was the date of that rezoning?
That
Approved by the
was
commission.
March 15th is when it was approved by City Council. So February is when Plan Commission would have acted on it.
So the 20-day referendum period has passed.
Yep.
Yeah, we just had no idea that was happening. You know, there was COVID and we are not within the 250 feet to get a letter to explain any of it. So you know, it's just kind of coming to surface now. So there's a total of 20 families that have been talking and just, you know, talking about our concerns.
Ma'am, this is Todd
So some
Kays. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
This is Todd Kays. I sit on the Planning Commission. My understanding is that the property closest to yours was already zoned R3. Is that correct, Brandy? And the rezoning was property closer to Highway 81. Is that correct?
Well, and we actually did notice, and I do have that list that that I told her about. But they are also, we go from the exterior boundary line anyway, so we don't just do where it was rezoned. We actually went from this corner. The unfortunate thing, though, is that they're 275 feet away. But for consistency purposes, that we only do 250 because we can't choose to over notice for some applications and then under notice. And then that is consistent with the state statute for the referral, that you petition if you're within 250 feet of the affected property owners.
You are correct in that statement, Commissioner Kays, where the westerly portion of this proposed apartment complex land was and is R3 zoning. The westerly half or better, and then the easterly half is what was rezoned from C2 to R3.
My question to Mrs. McLaughlin was, were you aware that the property closest to you was already zoned R3, which was potentially, it could be used for apartment housing already when you purchased your property?
No, I had no idea. I thought it was just commercial because back roads just came up. We've got a bank over here. So we just assumed it was commercial.
Can I ask what your concerns are with apartments going in there?
Absolutely. So, you know, we're worried about the traffic because we are already getting developed in this neighborhood. We have Valley View coming up with 150 lots, 30 of those with duplexes. So we're already, that whole zone is neighborhood, whatever you call that, that's already being developed. And then you have River Ridge is getting 3 additional blocks. So it's a lot of homes in one area when you add in the 216 units along with all of those other homes.
And I had explained to her as well that when we're looking at rezoning something, we always fall back on the comprehensive land use plan and what that shows. And then also we did the housing study market, or the housing market study in 2019. And I shouldn't say the number because I'm not certain, but I believe that it was we would need over 1,000 units by 2030. And so even when apartment units, and that's what their research showed. And then even with like the downtown apartments, you know, going up, which is great, but no, that's only 35 units. So to meet that quota of the 1,000 by 2030, you know, projects like this, and then are a community need, and then also the transitional zoning, R3 would be more appropriate on Highway 81, like they are showing what they have rezoned it to, and then that we would see, like, if this strip here would develop adjacent to the R1 properties, then we would look at transitional zoning at that time, as we always do.
More of an R2 potentially.
Yeah, or even R1 to R2.
Mr. Chair, if I might. Thank you for calling in. I just wanted to to state that I believe probably within the comprehensive plan, when that was looked at as R3, a lot of those sites, and this is kind of generally throughout the planning field, for your larger, your higher densities for apartment type living, we would want to put those really close to a street that would lead right out to an arterial street, which would be Highway 81, and try to keep those from being where it would be with a lot of neighborhood or local street traffic. So we are expecting that a lot of those vehicles are going to only have that short stretch there to the south, and then they'll probably likely be out on 81, which is designed to handle the traffic better.
Hi, this is Austin Dale, and I'm joining Mrs. McLaughlin here. And I just wanted to comment with that a little bit as well in terms of the residential and the traffic side, along with the school that we have here. I understand that 10th Avenue is under construction at this point in time, but our area up here has seen a drastic increase in the amount of traffic on 14th Avenue. Subsequently, a lot of the traffic coming north from the River Ridge area is taking 10th Street already, which is the street just south of Jefferson Elementary. Adding the 216 units in the R3 development there, I can't imagine I understand the quick access to the road, but I can't imagine that would not have a drastic increase of the traffic that we already have around a fairly congested area around Jefferson Elementary. So, and then my other part that I'll kind of jump in on that with as well is looking at the zoning next to a school. Is that a consistent zoning to have R3 consistently around our public school systems in terms of the number of people and traffic, again, that we want to see adjacent to those properties? Because I don't know if that's consistent with what else we've done throughout the rest of Watertown in terms of the housing that we have around our school districts.
Yes, and this property it doesn't abut the school property. It is still quite separated. And then there are, for all the schools, there's a variety of zoning that surround a school. There is no, yeah.
It's very common, I believe, in general, to see a mix of densities right next to schools, because I believe schools are a use that can go within a lot of the residential districts.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, if I could speak to the traffic concerns, and again, thank you both callers for the concerns here. In relation to the traffic, we are in the process of doing a master transportation plan update for the community, and the preliminary information is showing that both 14th and Highway 81 are built to capacity to extend far out into the future. I don't have the exact dates in front of me or the exact numbers in front of me, but I know that the traffic volumes we see on both those roads today are well under what both those roads could handle for the subsequent 20 to, I want to say, maybe even up to 50 years. And there are some modifications on 14th, like designated turn lanes that we will be plugging into that roadway, because that helps increase the rating of the traffic flow on that segment of roadway. So there are some minor corrections like that are needed to help make sure that each intersection functions at an appropriate, acceptable level of service. So we'll be seeing some minor improvements on 14th, mainly from roadway striping component. But as far as the width and the lanes and the capacity of both 81 and 14, we are geared up to see quite a bit of increased traffic on both those roads. And from a traffic safety and conveyance standpoint, they're both in good shape to carry that additional traffic in the next several years to come.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and I really do appreciate the call in and the concerns, and and it's unfortunate that your guys' properties fell just outside of our ordinance. We do notice every item that has a public hearing. We do notice that 250 feet away, everyone within that would get a certified letter in the mail.
Not
But then
certified.
or not certified, excuse me, just a letter in the mail. And then we do also notice everything in the paper. And then I know we're a recommendatory board for the city council. And then so before city council public hearings, there's notices again. And then after the city council makes their motion for approval, then there's a notice in the paper, and there's a 20-day referendum period. So there were notices, all of those notices that we do, with every action that we take, we did follow all of those. And, at this point, the property has been rezoned, and the applicant, or the property owner now has a right to use that property like an R3 property. Realistically, if they want to build an apartment there and it meets all setbacks and density requirements, it wouldn't ever come before this board again. So that's kind of where we sit today with this, is this property has already been completely through our process and through the city council's process. So I don't know if there is any action that this board could even consider since we're to that point.
And yeah, thank you for calling in, Katie. In our conversation, I had let her know that there was no action that was being taken, but she just wanted to at least voice her concerns to the board and have them for the record.
I just would like to add one more thing. We do appreciate you coming and joining us online and raising your concerns and asking about the process. There is one other thing I'm going to ask Brandy that we can maybe recommend so you can keep track of land use issues a little bit better in the future. Would you explain that notification process so you would actually get a notification if you're interested in land use issues? There's a way to do that, so you would get, I think, the agenda. So
Yes, and I can actually give you a call tomorrow and walk you through that, because you sign up as you get like a notification every time that like a plan commission or board of adjustment agenda is posted, and then you can just look at that agenda page and see if anything is of interest or affects you.
That's a great point, Stacy. I mean, there's on our agenda center, you can sign up for reminders for any board, every time an agenda gets posted, you get an email notifying you. So that is a great tool that we have as well.
Is that maybe something we could be doing a better job of as a planning commission, city council staff, to work with the utility department and mailings or something to let people know that if they want to have access, that this is where you go to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something with a public outreach that we can let them know, because maybe you're interested in the animal control board, so you can just sign up for the animal control board meeting, and so you know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
It's a great tool, and I just think, again, a lot of times people aren't aware of what's out there.
Right.
So when that gets developed, will that come in as a PUD, or how will that?
It's R3 multifamily, and it will conform to that district.
And that's it. So when they come with their master plan, though, we could possibly, there won't be anything.
They're at building permit issuance.
Building permit.
Yep.
So when they do that, so my point where I'm going with that is driveways, accessibilities. Could that be something that is suggested that, maybe there's more access onto 81 than?
We have done one review, and we've received revisions, and that's definitely things that engineering looks at, and we've commented on anything that did not meet our engineering design standards or ordinance.
I assume that having two entrances, on north and south end of that property onto 81, is that something that the state would have a say-so on?
They have to get a separate permit from the DOT.
I believe the site plan, Brandy, did it show one entrance on 81?
Yep, and that's further to the north, and then there's two onto 16th.
Where the existing driveway is, I'm assuming.
Well, that's where the state has already probably purchased the easement or the right-of-way access along there anyhow.
Yeah.
We do also follow the access requirements that are listed in Appendix D of the fire code. And so that will all be reviewed. I believe the fire marshal has already reviewed that, but that is something that will be occurring or checked off prior to issuing any permits.
Yep. Yep, and Chip has been involved with those reviews, so.
It's too bad because the value of our homes will now decrease. Because we have a realtor in this neighborhood who has said, yes, for sure, the value of our homes will decrease. And I mean, we're all about adding apartments and, you know, we understand the city is growing. It's just too bad that it has to be in this neighborhood when we already have so much other development happening in this neighborhood.
Well, I will contradict that one a little bit for you and make you feel a little better. You are next to a school, so your home is not going to lose any value, in my opinion, as a realtor. So, so you can always get second opinions on that. You're going to get a park, I believe. There's going to be an area for children to play. In my opinion, having children, that's a plus.
It'll be private though.
Well, yeah, we know how private works, but anyway, you're next to a school, and that just is going to hold value. That's not going to deter the resale of your home by any means.
I also think as property develops to the north of the school and we get another collector route along 18th Avenue to the north, that will help alleviate traffic from going, by your home. Granted, that might be 5, 10, or 15 years from now, but as the rate that the city has been growing, I think, an east-west road to the north of your property will help alleviate some of those traffic flow concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And I do understand too, with so much development in the area, there is construction traffic, and there's just honestly really no way to avoid that. But once the development is done, that should help alleviate as phases are completed.
I will make a comment. I live just south of the J&J development, south of the water tower by Crestview. And I've had the dirtiest snow the last 2 winters because of all the dirt that comes off of the development to that north. And we see more and more traffic coming off there. But I do know change is difficult and progress is difficult, but it's just part of what happens in a growing community.
And with construction sites, we do, we inspect them and try to stay on top of their best management practices and that they are keeping those sufficient to reduce erosion and sediment
I
runoff.
do like to see and I do see it all over on new construction where they have them round whatever
Wattles.
to hold everything in so the dirt isn't just going everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you. Moving on the agenda to item 8 is our new business. Do we have any new business to discuss, Brandy?
No.
All right, item 9 is old business. Do we have any old business to discuss?
No.
Any reason to go into executive session?
No.
All right, I will adjourn this meeting.
All right. Thanks, everyone.